she didn't cry. 15 years with this man, and when it finally ended, she didn't shed a single tear. Not because she wasn't hurting, but because some pain goes so deep, it doesn't make a sound. She was sitting on her bathroom floor at 11:47 on a Tuesday night, back against the tub, tiles cold, phone face down beside her. And she had just discovered two things in the space of 20 minutes that would change everything. The first, a message from the man she'd spent 15 years loving. 3 words: I can't anymore. No call, no explanation, no can we talk, just 3 words at 8:43 p.m. and then silence. But here's the thing. It wasn't that message that broke her. It was what she did 20 minutes later. In a strange, desperate attempt to find solid ground somewhere, anywhere, she opened her banking app. She checked her balance, then checked it again because she thought she'd misread it. Then a third time, 187,000 naira. Across every account she had, combined, 15 years of salary, promotions, bonuses, performance awards, rooms full of people telling her she was exceptional, and 187,000 naira was what remained. She put the phone down, face down, and sat in the dark. Because two things had ended at the same time that night, and she wasn't sure which one hurt more. Stay with me, because what she did next, what she found out about herself, about the years she can't get back, and about the one decision that changed everything, it's not what you think. Here's what nobody would have believed if you told them. That woman on the bathroom floor, the one with 187,000 naira and a 3-word goodbye, she used to be the most put-together person in every room she entered. Not in an arrogant way, just factually. Zara was the woman with a planner she actually used, who showed up early, who remembered your deadline when you'd forgotten it yourself. Sharp, structured, relentlessly focused. At 26, she walked into one of the top ad agencies in Lagos, and within 3 years, she was running campaigns that other people her age were still watching from the sidelines. Her mom used to say, that one doesn't need saving. She believed it. And then, at 27, she met Deji. She wants to be careful here. Because it's easy, sitting on the other side of 15 years, to make him into something he wasn't. He wasn't a predator. He wasn't calculating. He wasn't a man who set out to take something from her. He was just a man who was never going to give her what she needed. And the tragedy is, he knew that earlier than she did. They met at a work event. He was there as a client. She was there as part of the team. He asked her about a campaign her agency had run, and she explained it, and he listened the way that some men listen, not waiting for his turn to speak, actually listening, and afterwards he said, that was the most intelligent thing I've heard all evening. She laughed it off, but she walked to her car smiling. By month 3, they were talking every day. By month 6, she was rearranging her Sundays around him. And here's the first thing she missed, the thing that, looking back, was always there. He never once folded himself into her future. She'd mentioned a trip she was thinking of taking, a flat she was considering, a promotion she was going for, and he'd engage. He'd ask questions, he'd smile, but it was always her story he was responding to. He was never writing himself into it. She noticed it, and she explained it to herself.
He's cautious. He's been hurt before. He doesn't rush. That's maturity. At 27, that felt like a green flag. She didn't know she'd still be telling herself that exact story 15 years later, just with different words, just with a lot more money missing. 2 years in, his business hit what he called a rough patch. He said it very calmly, That was the thing. He didn't come to her panicked or embarrassed. He explained it the way a man explains a thing he already has a plan for. Temporary, under control. He wasn't asking for anything. A week later, casually, in the middle of a different conversation, he mentioned a supplier payment, cash flow a little tight, just for now. She offered before he finished the sentence. 300,000 naira. She had it. She'd been building that cushion quietly, the way her dad always told her to. He hesitated. She insisted. He took it. 4 months later, he paid it back. She felt something close to pride. We handled that. She marked it as a test passed by both of them. She didn't know yet that she had just passed a very different kind of test. 2 years after that, year 4, he came back, bigger this time. His business was evolving, expanding. There was a deal that would change everything. He needed capital, 800,000 naira. She didn't have it sitting in an account this time. And this is the part she doesn't like talking about, because somewhere between year 2 and year 4, her spending had quietly changed shape. She was dressing the way someone at her level was expected to dress. She'd moved into a better flat. She was covering more of their dates without really deciding. His cash flow situation never fully resolved. It just went quieter. She was buying groceries for his place, paying for trips she planned for both of them. None of it felt like a decision. It just happened, gradually, the way all the expensive things happen. For the 800,000 naira, she took a salary advance from work. She told herself it was an investment in him, in them, in their future.
The word them was doing a lot of work in her head back then. But here's what she didn't see yet. That wasn't the last loan. There was a third one, and that one is what made the 187,000 naira make sense. Before we go further, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be real with yourself. Have you ever called something an investment when you knew somewhere deep down it was just hope with better packaging? Because Zara knew. She just filed it away. Drop a comment. You don't have to explain it. Just, have you been there? Because what's coming next, she didn't see it coming either. Years 5 through 10. On paper, the best years of her life. 2 promotions, a corner office by year 8, her name in the credits of campaigns that won awards. She was the kind of professional that younger women in her industry pointed to and said, that's who I want to be. And she was good, she really was. At work, she was decisive, sharp, impossible to rattle. She kept that part completely separate from everything else. Because at home, or wherever home had become relation to Deji, something was shifting so slowly that she could pretend it wasn't shifting at all. Her social life had quietly reduced. Not because he asked her to, he never said, don't go out. It was subtler than that. He always had something he needed, somewhere he had to be, something that needed her attention. And she gave it willingly, because that's what you do, isn't it, when you love someone? Her friend, Angela, started saying things around year 7. Small things, careful things. How's Deji? Still figuring things out? Or at weddings, are you two coming together? And when Zara said yes, Angela would nod and go quiet. What Angela wasn't saying was screaming, because anyone who attended a wedding with Zara and Deji noticed the same thing. He was always her +1, always charming, always smiling, always the kind of man people liked immediately. But he never once looked at her across the room with the look that meant us. That look that men give you when they've already decided you're the one and they're just waiting for the right moment. She noticed. She explained it to herself. He's not a big gesture person. That's not a flaw. And the money. By year 7, she simply stopped looking at it directly. That is the most honest thing she can tell you. She knew it wasn't good, but she also knew that if she sat down and really calculated it, she would have to do something about it. And doing something about the money would mean doing something about him. So she didn't look. She was 36. The marriage conversation had not happened. She brought it up once, carefully, leaving him room to say what she needed to hear. He said he wasn't against it. She held on to that for 2 years. not against it. She turned that into a yes and lived inside it like it was a real answer. But something else was happening that she didn't know about yet. Something that had already been happening for longer than she realized. And when she finally found out, she'd understand why he'd never once given her a real answer. Year 11. She can pinpoint the month now. She couldn't then.
It wasn't a fight. There was no incident. It was more like a room where the temperature drops 1 degree at a time until you finally realize you've been cold for months without knowing why. His attention changed. That thing he had, that quality of making you feel like the only person in whatever space you were in, it thinned like paper. Still there on the surface, but press on it and your finger went right through. She started initiating everything. Every call, every plan, every conversation that tried to go somewhere real. He responded. He was never cruel. He just stopped arriving. He was present, but there was nobody home behind it. And so she did what people do when they feel something slipping. She didn't pull back. She reached forward. She planned a trip, long weekend outside Lagos. She used a bonus she'd been sitting on, booked everything. She thought a change of setting would open something between them, the way travel sometimes cracks people open and makes them honest. He was pleasant the entire trip. On the last evening, she asked him directly, no cushioning, no room to dodge. What did he see for them? In 5 years, what were they actually building? He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Zara, I'm not sure I'm the kind of man who can give you what you deserve. And she took his face in her hands. She said, You're already more than I need. She thought she was reassuring him. She was handing him back his own confession and telling him it didn't count. He was telling her the truth, the clearest, most direct truth he'd ever told her, and she wrapped it in love and gave it back to him. She didn't understand what she'd done until 3 years later, when the photo arrived. Year 14. Her body began sending signals. She was tired in a way that sleep didn't fix. Not the tired from working hard. She'd done that her whole career and managed it. This was different. The kind that builds when you are spending energy on something that gives nothing back. When you are pouring into a thing and watching it sit there, consuming you quietly, neither growing nor dying. She started getting migraines she'd never had before. She stopped calling her sister as often. She said, I'm fine so many times, to so many people, that the words lost all their meaning, even to her. And then, year 15 began. There was a woman. She didn't find out dramatically, no confrontation, no walking in on anything. She found out the way that somehow feels worse than all of that, quietly. A photo, sent by someone from work who'd seen them at a restaurant. A woman she didn't know, leaning into Deji the way Zara used to lean into him. Comfortable, easy, like she'd been there a while. Zara sat with that photo for 3 days. 3 days, still going to work, still answering emails, still saying I'm fine. She sat with it because she needed to be absolutely sure before she said anything. Or maybe because she wasn't ready yet to start the clock on what saying something would mean. On the 3rd day, she brought it up. He didn't deny it. He didn't flinch. He said it had been going on for about 7 months. He said, and this is the line she still turns over sometimes at night. He said, I care about you. Like care was the same as love. Like caring about a person was a reason to lie to them for 7 months while collecting their money and their time and their Sundays. She asked him to leave. He left, and Zara stood in the middle of her living room for a moment that she cannot tell you the length of. Then she walked to the bathroom, slid down against the tub until she was on the floor. Tiles cold, phone face down, and she opened her banking app. 187,000 naira. She hadn't cried when she read the 3-word message. She didn't cry now either. She just sat there and let the number look back at her. 15 years. That was the sum. I want to pause here Because I know some of you are not just watching a story right now. Some of you are in year 5 of something that feels like this, or year 9, or 12, and you are doing what Zara did, explaining it to yourself, building a case for why you should stay. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your situation, but I'll ask you one thing. If your closest friend described your life to you exactly as it is, not how you explain it, how it actually is, what would you tell her to do? Just sit with that. And if this is landing somewhere real, tell me in the comments, because you are not as alone in this as tonight feels. She didn't sleep. She made tea, sat at the kitchen table as Lego started waking up outside. Keke horns, a neighbor's generator cutting off, the city doing what it always does, indifferent to her specific devastation. She opened a notebook. Old habit. When she didn't know how to think through something, she wrote it down. She wrote one question at the top of the page. Where did the money go? And then she made herself answer it, without softening anything, without looking away. The loans. 300,000 naira, year 2. Paid back. Fine. 800,000 naira, year 4. Partially returned over 2 years in amounts that required her to ask for them, which she hated, so she stopped asking. And then the third one, the one she had almost completely blocked, 500,000 naira, year 12, a deal he said fell through. He'd paid back 80,000 of it. She put the pen down. She hadn't thought about that one in years. She'd filed it somewhere she didn't have to look at it, the way you close a tab on your phone that you don't want to delete but can't deal with right now. She added it all up. Over 1.5 million naira in loans alone. Most of it gone. Beyond that, the trips she'd funded, the tabs, the groceries, the electricity bills, the lifestyle that had quietly outpaced her actual ability to save because she'd been subsidizing 2 lives on 1 income without ever deciding to. She sat back in her chair. She had funded someone else's life, willingly, lovingly, without a contract or a plan or a single honest conversation. And here is where this story could become about anger. But Zara made a choice at that kitchen table. She wasn't going to spend whatever came next being angry at Digi. Not because he didn't deserve it, he did. But she'd already given him 15 years. And she understood in that moment that anger, the kind that runs on repeat, is just another way of handing someone space in your life that they haven't earned. She had a more useful question. What was she going to do now? The first thing she did was small. So small, it felt almost embarrassing. She called her bank, set up an automatic transfer, 10% of her salary, every month, to a separate account. She named it Mine. She didn't tell anyone. It wasn't a declaration. It was just a direction. The smallest possible step in a direction that was finally hers. The second thing was harder. She called Angela, and she told her everything. Not the version she'd been serving people for years. The real version. The loans. The number. The 3 days she held the photo before she said anything. The bathroom floor. Angela was quiet the whole time she talked. And when she finished, Angela said 2 words. Okay, so? Not, I told you so. Not, why didn't you listen to me? Just, okay, what are we doing? That we cracked something open in Zara that she didn't expect. She hadn't realized how long she'd been doing everything alone. She started therapy. Her company had a wellness program she'd never touched. She used it now. It wasn't what she expected. It wasn't breakthroughs and clarity. Some sessions she drove home feeling worse than when she arrived. She kept going anyway. Somewhere around month 3, she got a message from Digi. She's going to tell you what it said in a minute. But first, the other things she was doing. She stopped lending money. Completely. No reduction, no limit. Stopped. The first time someone she genuinely cared about asked, she said no, and felt sick for 2 days about it. The second time was easier. By the third, she understood something she hadn't before. Every no to someone else's emergency was a yes to her own future. She wrote that on a sticky note, put it inside the cabinet above her kitchen sink, looked at it every morning. She started cooking at home 5 days a week, added 200,000 naira back to her monthly budget, moved it to the mine account without touching it. She picked up a freelance project, marketing copy for a startup. Paid modestly, but it reminded her that her skills belonged to her, that they lived completely outside any job title, any relationship, any version of herself that had been shaped around someone else. Then, she enrolled in a course, Digital Marketing Strategy. She already knew most of it. That wasn't the point. The point was that she was spending money she'd earned, moving in a direction only she could see, building something that had no one else's name on it. Now, Deji's message. He sent it in month 4. Short. I hope you're okay. I heard you've been making changes. I'm proud of you. She read it twice. Then she deleted it. Not in anger, just because she understood something that she hadn't 6 months earlier, that some people's approval is the last thing you need when you're finally learning to approve of yourself. She was 42 years old. The voice in her head that said too late was still there. She was just done listening to it. 12 months after that night on the bathroom floor, Zara is sitting at a different table. Same flat, but it feels different. She repainted the living room in January. Deep terracotta. Nothing like anything Deji would have chosen. She picked it for exactly that reason. She has 2.5 million naira saved. She says that number and it still surprises her. 12 months. She stopped leaking and suddenly there was more than she'd seen in years. The math was never the problem. It was never about what she earned. It was about where it went and why. She's not in a relationship. She's been on 2 dates this year. One was fine, one was interesting. Neither became anything. She doesn't feel the urgency she used to. The panic around being alone has gone quieter. Not all the way. Some nights it's still loud, but she's learning the difference between being alone and being lonely. They aren't the same thing. She went to her cousin's wedding last month, alone. She danced, she laughed. She sat at a table with women she hadn't spoken to properly in years, and they talked until the venue started stacking the chairs. On the drive home, she realized she hadn't thought about Deji once the entire night. Not once. She cried a little in the car. Not from sadness. She's not sure exactly what from. Just the strange relief of realizing that something which once took up so much space had quietly moved out. She's not healed. She doesn't want that word. Healed sounds like a scar with clean edges. This is messier. She still reaches for her phone some nights out of old habit, still misses not Deji specifically, but the shape of a person in your life, the weight of being someone's person. She still has conversations with herself about what she should have done differently, but she doesn't punish herself in those conversations anymore. That's the difference. She made choices. Choices that came from love and from fear, and from the part of her that believed if she just gave enough, someone would stay. Those choices were hers. She owns them. And because they were hers, she can make different ones. That is the part nobody tells you about starting over at 42. It is not starting from zero. It is starting from everything you now know. The things your younger self paid in full for you to understand. She turned 43 last month. Her mom called. Said, "So, how are you feeling?" The way mothers ask when they mean more than the surface. Zara said, "I feel like myself." And she meant it. For the first time in a very long time,
she completely, actually meant it. If you made it here, I want you to know something. You didn't watch this whole thing because of Zara. You watched it because some part of this is yours. Maybe the flaw, maybe the explaining, maybe the account you keep not looking at. Wherever you are in your own version of this story, you are not behind. You are not too old. You are not too broken to choose differently. The account named Mine exists. You can open it today, right now, after this. And if this touched something real in you, subscribe and share it. Someone in your life needs to hear it and doesn't know how to find it. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And what is one thing you are choosing for yourself starting today? I will read and try to reply every single one. Zara is still figuring it out. Aren't we all? But she's figuring it out on her own terms now. And that is everything.